Hello and welcome to Ryan Reviews. Today I'm going to be going through the gossip column on just what's been going on in football as all the January transfer window moves are happening. I wanted to look at what is being rumoured. I know there's a few different deals which could be happening, might not be happening, and I'm going to see where tell you what my thoughts are about it all. Jumping straight into it. A lot of business going on in Arsenal, hopefully. Mesut Ozil, who's been left out of the squad in the last few games, according to the Daily Mail, is rumoured to leave, with Unai Emery quite happy for his German midfielder, having leave to free up a move for two new signings. I'd be quite interested to see who those two signings are, as they think that if Ozil leaves, then there'll be enough funds from his wages, which he's on £350,000 reportedly. So his wages and the money that she'll get from his transfer will go into two new signings. I know Denis Suarez is being linked, the Barcelona midfielder is being linked for a move to the Emirates. Be interesting to see if that happens. He hasn't really developed into a big player for Barcelona, so it'd be interesting to see whether he could do that at Arsenal. Moving on to West Ham's troublesome striker Marko Arnautovic. He is looking to force through his move to the Chinese Super League with Shanghai SIPG. That is looking to go through by the end of this week. I think it's a move that makes sense for all parties. 35 million for a striker who's 29 years old. The money can be reinvested. There's a few people in the window who could be available. Chelsea striker Michy Batshuayi is back at the club, but is looking to go back out on loan or potentially a transfer in itself. I think that West Ham could easily invest that money into someone like him. He's been in the Premier League for a couple of years and scored some important goals for Chelsea. So I feel like that move would make sense. Ex-Watford striker Odion Ighalo is also available after his contract expired. And he would like to move back to the Premier League. He'd be a free transfer, so that the wages would be all they have to pay. So that could be a cheaper option. So I feel like it makes sense for all parties, as Arnautovic obviously wants to leave. So I feel like for 35 million, take the money and run. Sevilla apparently have given up potentially signing Alvaro Morata, as they feel like the price tag of 40 million is too expensive for the Spain striker. I feel like they're arguably right. I don't know whether... I don't feel like Morata will leave this window. I think he needs a confidence booster. He needs someone to put an arm around his shoulder and just love him for a little while. He's had a lot of pressure since joining Chelsea, first the fans and now the manager change, and just I think there's been a lot of things which have been issues for him. Hopefully he can hit form at some point. He's still relatively young at 26 and still could have another 5 years of top form. We've seen strikers go to Chelsea and really struggle before, the likes of Radamel Falcao and people like that. Sometimes it just doesn't click. So maybe best for all parties for Morata to leave. I feel like it's more likely to go to Serie A in Italy, and someone like AC Milan will probably be more interested when spending that kind of money for a player which could arguably have another 4 or 5 very, very good seasons with just people who want him at the club and love him. Ligue 1 champions PSG are looking in the market for a new defensive midfielder. They've been linked with a ton of Premier League midfielders, and one of the most recent ones is Idriss Gueye from Everton. The Senegalese midfielder has apparently been interested in a move as well, looking to move to France, but the Toffees are apparently only listening for offers for 40 million or more, as they don't really want to sell him in January. I think this is a crazy amount of money for a midfielder, which I don't believe to be a top class midfielder. And 40 million, I know the market's very inflated, but it's just crazy money for someone who's quite a standard player realistically in the Prem. But with the money that PSG have spent previously on players which are mid-tier, or just good but not well beaters, the likes of, I remember Kabay moving from Newcastle there a few years back, Choupo-Moting moving there as well in the summer. I think that 40 million isn't probably realistic, because PSG could spend that. It would give Everton a lot of money. They can go spend it on improving their team. I know Marco Silva is probably desperate to get some players in, considering the season they're having at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see how that develops. I know PSG have been interested in Abdoulaye Doucouré at Watford, as well as a few other midfielders. I don't think they'll get somebody in this January. I just think that they're either going to have to pay over the overpriced fees for players to leave in January, and I just don't think it will happen. Leicester now, Shinji Okazaki, who has been a fantastic servant to the club, is apparently looking for more first-team football and is looking to leave the club in January. I'm not sure whether this will be through a loan deal or a permanent deal, but it'd be a shame to see him leave the Premier League. I think he's a fantastic workhorse and does does a great job whenever he's called upon. He's been a great super sub, I think, for Leicester, and that's what he's made his best impacts that way. So I can understand why he wants he's a bit fed up in that role as he's getting on at 32 years old. I presume he just wants to get a bit more time under his belt and keep fit. So completely understand if he wanted to move on. That's it for today's gossip. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know what you want to hear and let me talk about in the footballing world. We're talking about some more confirmed transfers tomorrow, and that's it. Thank you, and goodbye.